High Court, District Court, Magistrates Court, Special Courts and Tribunals. The Basic Law of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China is a national law of China that serves as the de facto constitution of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, comprising 9 chapters, 160 articles and 3 annexes. The Basic Law was enacted under the Constitution of China to implement the Sino-British Joint Declaration. 91. The Basic Law was adopted by the National People's Congress on 4 April 1990 and came into effect on 1 July 1997 in Hong Kong, when the sovereignty over Hong Kong was transferred from the United Kingdom to China. It replaced Hong Kong's colonial constitution of the letters patent and the royal instructions. The Sino-British Joint Declaration, signed between the Chinese and British governments on 19 December 1984, requires the Basic Law to be created. Drafted on the basis of the Declaration, the Basic Law lays out the basic policies of China on Hong Kong, including the one country, two systems principles, such that the governance and economic system practiced in mainland China are not extended to Hong Kong. Instead, Hong Kong would continue its capitalist system and way of life until 2047. The Basic Law also sets out the sources of law, the relationship between Hong Kong and the central government, the fundamental rights and duties of Hong Kong residents and the branches of local government. Shortly after the Sino-British Joint Declaration was signed, the National People's Congress set up the Basic Law Drafting Committee in 1985, setting the basis of the transfer of sovereignty in Hong Kong from the United Kingdom to China. 444. The committee was responsible for writing the draft Basic Law. In June 1985, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress approved the membership of the BLDC, which consisted of 36 members from China and 23 members from Hong Kong. 444, chaired by Chinese diplomat Ji Pengfei. 12 of the 23 members from Hong Kong were connected to the city's business and industrial sectors. 11 is to 444. A Basic Law Consultative Committee consisting of Hong Kong community leaders was also established in 1985 to collect views in Hong Kong on the draft law. Similar to the BLDC, the BLCC was also dominated by business and professional elites. 174. The first draft was published in April 1988, followed by a 5-month public consultation. The second draft was published in February 1989, and the subsequent consultation period ended in October 1989. The Basic Law was promulgated on 4 April 1990 by the National People's Congress, together with the designs for the regional flag and regional emblem of the HKSAR. On 4 June 1989, the BLDC's only 2 members representing the nascent pro-democracy camp, Martin Lee and Situ Wah, declared that they would suspend their participation after the military crackdown of the Tiananmen Square protests of 1989. 23. In September 1989, Lee announced that he would return to the BLDC after being urged to do so by many in Hong Kong. 23. However, in October, Beijing expelled Lee and Situ from the BLDC as subversives. 15. Lee and Situ had voiced support for student activists in Beijing and had led the Hong Kong Alliance in support of patriotic democratic movements in China, an organization instrumental in assisting political dissidents leave China after the military crackdown on 4 June. 131 to 132. The basic principles of Hong Kong's governance under Chinese sovereignty mirror those in the Sino-British Joint Declaration, and most of them are set out in the first chapter of the Basic Law. The NPCSC has identified Articles 1 and 12 as the fundamental provisions of the Basic Law. Article 1 declares Hong Kong as a part of the People's Republic of China, but it maintains legal and political systems distinct from those in mainland China until 2047. Hong Kong has a high degree of autonomy and maintains its own executive, legislative and judicial branches. Judicial power includes the power of final adjudication, which replaces the colonial judicial recourse of appealing to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in the United Kingdom with appeals to the Court of Final Appeal. The Hong Kong National Security Law incorporated into Annex 3 of the Basic Law overrides incompatible local ordinances and allows mainland Chinese courts to preside over cases that involve certain national security crimes. Article 12 declares that Hong Kong enjoys a high degree of autonomy and comes directly under the Central People's Government. Article 5 requires that the socialist system and policies to not be practiced in Hong Kong and the capitalist system and way of life before the handover remain for 50 years after the handover, or 2047. The common law, rules of equity, ordinances, subsidiary legislation and customary law that govern certain land rights in the new territories that were in force before the handover are maintained, except for any that contravene T.